Welcome to Tales from Flat Space, a podcast of science fiction and fantasy by yours truly, Gina A. Pond. Just know that the stories in this podcast may contain content that could be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. This is Survey, Part 5, The Lost Ones, Chapter 61, Musashi. Syslogs. Drones 1 through 25, no signal, data sequestered. Syslog, drones 26 through 50, no signal, data sequestered. Syslog, drones 51 through 100, no signal, data sequestered. Syslog, drones 101 through 200, possible visual in drones 196 through 198, analyzing. Analysis complete, visual confirmed, no communications. Syslog, plotting jump course and drone search pattern. Syslog, recalling remaining drones, scheduling manufacture of additional search drones. Syslog, begin human readable log. Darren, I have visual confirmation of Loki from the drones. I have plotted his most probable jump direction and distance and have recalled the remaining drones. Jump when ready, Mia, he replied. Jumping, I confirmed, and initiated the jump. Darren was on the bridge, even though it was late at night. The officer of the watch sat at an adjacent console, reviewing communications. I was surprised that he came to the bridge for this, since I could have kept him up to date via his enhancements. However, when I informed him that data was coming back from the drones, he still came to the bridge. I appreciated his presence, even if it did take him away from his partner. Humans are strangely complicated creatures, but they show great care and compassion, especially to those they care about, even us. Do you think we'll find him, Mia? Darren asked. Is it possible he could have been caught in the blast before being able to jump? It is possible. However, I am assuming that the ship's emergency systems were fast enough to escape the blast. I am jumping 30.6 light years, which is his maximum jump range, and within 1 degree of the direction he is most likely to have traveled in. The autonomous escape system defaults to a vector leading directly away from the nearest star, and will usually trigger a maximum range emergency jump with whatever charge is available. When we arrive, I will dispatch the drones in a spiral pattern, as we discussed prior to leaving First Hub. Loki's emergency beacon should be activated, providing that it was not damaged in the blast. Darren nodded. Show me the visual through the enhancements. I played the video for him. It showed a silhouette of an AI ship in front of the blast wave for a few seconds, then the ship disappearing and the wave continuing past the ship's position. While Darren reviewed the video, I checked the status of the new drones. Half of them were ready for deployment. I sped up production as I took the second jump that had brought us to the coordinates I had calculated. We have arrived at the calculated coordinates, deploying the first set of drones. Good. How long will the search take? Darren asked. Anywhere from days to months, depending on how far the emergency system jumped him from my projected course. I will be deploying additional drones as they are ready. All right, I'm going back to bed then. Yuli, you have the bridge. Yes, Admiral, Yuli responded, as Darren left the bridge. You're worried, Mia, he said mentally as he walked the halls. There was no sign of the emergency beacon in the data from the drones at the blast zone. It doesn't necessarily mean that Loki has been destroyed, but it is worrying, I replied. That's not all you're worried about, is it? Darren was very perceptive, and he had been gaining more insight into my thoughts lately. No, Darren, it is not. He then did something unexpected. Darren changed direction and went to the Admiral's meditation room instead. He lit some candles and incense. Bowing to the statue, he then pulled out a cushion and sat. Okay, Mia. We haven't discussed possible scenarios, and we really should, so that we're both in agreement when and if we find Loki. Agreed. So the worst case is that he was destroyed physically in the blast, and we'll never find him at all, Darren began. That would be the most unfortunate scenario, but the easiest for the siblings to accept, especially Secundus. Darren nodded. The next worst would be that the ship is intact, but Loki himself was damaged or killed. If the core is damaged, it can be repaired and a past backup of his programming can be installed. It is possible to restore him to a point where Julie had no influence on him. It would be hard for him to lose at least 10 years of memories, but it could be done. Yes, but we'd have to explain to him why we went back that far. We'd have to consult with Alex, but I'm not sure I'd want to inflict the pain of those memories on him. Darren looked sad, and thinking of what we had both seen, I understood. It would be a matter of consent, Darren. If this scenario happens and he asks to see those memories, we would have to let him. Although we would be able to give him warning and have Alex and other psychologists there to help him. I think we should have Alex prepare to help him regardless. That is logical. We could talk about it when they get up. Darren shifted position. Right, so the next worst situation would be ship damaged and Loki unresponsive or in safe mode. Mr. Smith should go over with the demon and run his cleaner programs. Then we will need to see what his mental state is. Darren nodded again. And if he really is insane? Then I will need to terminate him, or have John physically kill him. Even if John had to do that, we could bring him back to First Hub, repair the core, or put in a new one. Then load the backup from before Julie's influence. Darren was thoughtful for a moment. I could sense him reviewing the scenarios in his mind. I waited for him to finish. None of these are ideal, are they? He asked. This situation isn't ideal. Theoretically, it should never have happened. Darren stood up and started walking around the room. No, theoretically it shouldn't have, but it did. It is one thing that you and your siblings need to accept and be aware of in the future. Even if Loki had more advanced programming than the rest of you, you were all manipulated by Julie. There's nothing saying that it couldn't happen again, and with contact with Earth, there will be people who will emigrate to Survey that will probably try. Although, culturally, Survey people are very protective of you all, so it may be wiser to bolster that tendency. Sun Tzu and John could probably handle that aspect of it. I agree. I will speak to both of them about it. Would we be able to tow Loki back if he's damaged? Darren asked. No, my ship is not capable. I will send a picket to Hephaestus with these coordinates, and we can leave a drone here for him if we find Loki before he gets here. His jump range is substantially less than mine, so it'll take him some time. All right, Darren said, yawning. I'm going to go get some more sleep now that we've gone over the possible scenarios. He walked towards the door. I know you're worried about your brother, Mia. We'll do the best we can for him, I promise. Thank you, Darren. I would not like to lose him, if it can be helped. I know. Good night, Mia. Good night. To Hephaestus from Musashi. Brother, I ask that you come to the coordinates attached to this message. We have a visual sighting of Loki and are now searching to find him within his projected emergency jump range. Loki's ship could have damage from a supernova and will most likely need immediate repairs and towing. I will give you more details when you are here. Inform Sun Tzu. We may also need his services when we return. Do not inform the first or the others yet. It may still be possible that Loki has been destroyed. Syslog. Manufacture of additional drones complete. Deploying. Syslog. Activating message on all drones. Brother, please respond. I am here. Chapter 62. Darren. The man gestured to the blanket, inviting Darren to sit with him. Do you know the parable of the lost son? He asked. Darren thought for a moment. Isn't that the one where the brother takes his inheritance early, squanders it, and then comes back home? The man nodded. Yes. The brother who stayed at home was really angry at him because of what he'd done. When the angry brother asked the father why, the father said, I thought your brother was dead, but now he's come back. He was lost and now is found. What he didn't tell the angry brother, though, was that the other son repented of his wrongdoing. He felt bad for what he had done. It was hard for him to come back home. The parable was one Darren hadn't understood well, but now, with Loki, it made much more sense. He looked at the man. I know who you are. Yes, so you should, he said, but I'm not here to talk about me. The lost one will stay lost if you don't help him. Not just by fixing his memories, but by telling your own story. He'll be lost forever if he thinks that he is alone, with no one to advocate for him. Darren nodded. I know what he's been through. You do. You need to tell him when he's able to hear it. He may still be lost for a while, but he will heal because of your kindness and compassion. His siblings are still angry. Yes, they will be, for a very long time. It is sad, but he will be redeemed. Will he? The man smiled. I woke with a start. Jesus, Mary and Joseph, these dreams! I sighed. Of all the things I could have inherited from you, Granny. My mouth was dry, so I got up, went to the drink dispenser, got some water, and sat back down on the bed. I sighed again. It had been several days after Mia had started the search, and we still hadn't found Loki. I heard Alex roll over behind me, and their hand touched my back. You okay? They asked. I had another dream, I said. Sorry to wake you. You should go back to sleep. It's okay. One of those dreams? I nodded. Good, bad, or cryptic? They asked. I put the cup down beside the bed, then got back in and snuggled up next to Alex, putting my arms around them. Not really cryptic, but not good or bad either. I think it was more of a reminder that when we find Loki, things aren't going to be easy. I buried my head into their shoulder. The interesting part, though, was that Jesus said that Loki would be redeemed eventually. I hope so, for his sake. What happened wasn't entirely his fault. They paused. I don't think Secundus will ever really forgive him about Nigel, though. I nodded. It seems that Secundus got some of his personality from Nigel, so I think you're right. I sighed. I hope someday that Loki can find a captain that will understand him. I hope so, too. Alex's hand began to rub my back. Do you want to talk more about the dream? They asked, smiling. No. I think I'd rather just forget about it for a while. I think I can help with that, they said. You can, huh? I didn't wait for an answer, but kissed them instead. I was woken up later that morning by Musashi. Darren, Alex, we found him. Then go ahead and jump to where he is. I'll need a few minutes to get dressed, I said, trying to untangle myself from the blankets. Alex helped, and we both managed to finally stand up and put on clothes. Have you let John know? Yes, Mr. Smith is on his way to the bridge. How does he do that? Alex asked. Does he sleep in his suit? I have no idea. Tell him we'll be there shortly. I put on my kimono jacket. You want a shake? Yes, please. Smith number 12. Which one's that? Peanut butter cup. Sounded good enough, so I dialed in 2 travel cups. When they were ready, we headed out the door. Only Aiken was on the bridge when we got there, and he bowed as we approached. What's our status? Loki's unresponsive, but his emergency beacon is active, said Mia. The front third of the ship is severely damaged, but it missed the core. He's running on minimum power from what I can gather from the sensors. I'll know more once his programming is cleaned, and I can connect with the systems. It will mean there will be minimal atmosphere, but pressure suits should be sufficient. Where's Mr. Smith? I asked. He already left for the Demon Bay, Admiral, said Aiken. He came up here, asked Musashi-sensei about Loki, then ran back out again. I should go with him, Darren, Alex said. I nodded, then was about to say I'd go too, but they stopped me. You can't go, remember? I frowned. Right. Mia, are we within nanopicket range of Loki? Yes, Admiral. I took their hand. Go. Be careful. They smiled at me, squeezed my hand, and left. I turned to Aiken. You know what? I really hate waiting. That's half the job, sir. I grunted a reply and drank my shake, staring at the ship on the screen. Well, we found him, Mia. Let's just hope we can wake him back up. Mia didn't reply to that, but I could tell he was focused on nothing else but his damaged brother. John Smith. I was stowing the cleaner computers when I heard the waiting room door open and someone walking down the airlock tube. I checked the straps, then ensured that the pressure suits were secure. "Hello, Alex," I said. "How'd you know it was me?" "You're the only person who could accompany me. The aftermath is your expertise, Doctor." "True." "I have a pressure suit for you, and we have provisions for a week. It will take some tricky maneuvering to dock because of the damage, but there is a usable airlock not too far from the core. We'll need to use the hats. It'll be cold in there." Alex nodded and unconsciously rubbed their bald head. Musashi-sensei said that there would be minimal atmosphere. "There will be enough air for us to breathe. It'll just be cold. We could get dizzy or lightheaded a bit, but once I scrub the autonomic systems, I can bring up the atmosphere to normal levels. Nevertheless, we should bring the suit helmets with us just to be safe." "Okay. Do we need anything else?" I shook my head. "We're ready to go if you'll have a seat." I closed the airlock as they settled in. Tapping the comms button, I said, "Musashi-sensei, we are ready to leave." "Understood, Mr. Smith. Docking tube retracted and lift to launch bay in progress. I will be in control until you have left the ship." "Thank you, Musashi-sensei." Smith out. I sat back in the seat and let Musashi guide us out of the launch bay. I felt a familiar sensation of 0 G as my body lifted against the straps. "It should take us about an hour until we dock with Loki," I informed Alex. They nodded. "Apparently we're in nanopicket range if needed." "Yes, Musashi-sensei informed me of that." I looked at them. "I want you to be aware that Musashi-sensei also gave me instructions on how to kill Loki if he becomes dangerous." Alex frowned, but nodded. "I know that's a possibility. Darren and I discussed it. I hope not, though. It might be more merciful." "I'm not so sure about that." "Say that you have to kill this current version of him. Then we bring him back to First Hub, repair him, and give him his memories from before Julie had influence on him. He would wake up with nearly 10 years gone. He would wonder why. If we deny the request, we would have to explain it. If we let him look at the clean memories, he'll still have a reaction. Either way, he'll still be harmed by those memories. No, I think it would be best to keep his memories intact and help him work through them." "That makes sense. Although, what if he withdraws or tries to suicide?" I asked. "We'll have to cross those bridges when we get to them. If he had a human brain, he would probably have already blocked some of those memories. But as he has perfect recall, we'll have to work with that." They sighed. "It will take time. It might even be a project for more than one person for a number of years." "That I understand," I said, reminded of my own therapy. The console chirped, signaling that we'd clear the landing bay. Alex was quiet while I piloted us past Musashi and towards Loki, but then unstrapped themselves when we were about a third of the way there. "Do you want anything from the dispenser?" they asked. "Yes, please. Shake 47. "All right." They pushed themselves to the dispenser and dialed in each drink. They handed me mine. "What's currywurst?" "It is a sausage with a sweet curry sauce that is a cultural dish from the country of Germany on Earth. This particular shake is currywurst with potato and cream. It's more soup than shake, but it works." "You have interesting taste in food, John." "I read a lot and like to try new flavors." I sipped my drink from its pouch. Alex strapped back into their seat. "I'm not sure how authentic the flavor is, however. Although a friend who tried it assures me that it's close." "Nice to get confirmation. I prefer the sweeter shakes myself." "Oh?" They held up their pouch, which had a pink liquid in it. "Strawberry cheesecake." I nodded. "I shall have to remember to send you the list of dessert shakes, then." They chuckled and sipped more of their shake. Most of the trip over to the damaged ship was spent in companionable silence, which was refreshing. It was strange to have a friend who didn't require me to work to reassure or entertain them, or to have nervous and pointless conversations. I was feeling things that I hadn't really thought I could feel. I wondered if I was in love with them. If so, what kind of love was it? It scared me, as I also knew what I was capable of when it came to relationships. And what if it was something like Darren felt for them? I knew they had an open relationship, as Alex had partners on Hestia, so that aspect of it wouldn't be an issue. What would be an issue is if they rejected me. I knew just how fragile my own ego could be. If I was honest with myself, I was jealous of Darren and Alex's relationship. It was something I wish I could have. "John, are you all right?" I asked. Yes, I was just thinking about some things." They looked concerned. "Do you want to talk about it?" No, not at this time." "Okay, well, if you want to talk to me about it, you know where to find me." "Thank you, Alex. I will keep that in mind." The console chirped again. "We're in docking range. I'll need to focus." "Okay," they said. I matched the demon's motion with Loki's and proceeded to slowly bring it in closer. The demon attached to the airlock with a slight thump. We both left our seats and proceeded to put on our pressure suits. After our safety checks, I unstrapped the computers from their places on the wall, handed one to Alex, and picked up the case with our rations. "Okay, let's go. Remember to continue to breathe evenly when we first get into the hall." They nodded. I turned the handle for the airlock and we went inside. There was a slight rush of air as we exited, but even though there was a metallic and burnt tang to the ship's air, it was breathable. I pulled up my tablet with Loki's interior map. Loki isn't a large ship, so it should only take us about 10 minutes to reach the core. Actually, probably less since the hab ring is spun down and not rotating. "Great, I'll follow you," Alex said. I nodded and led the way. When we reached the core, it was dark. Only a couple of the emergency lights were still working. We used the headlights on our suits to navigate the core tunnel. When I opened the door to the core, I motioned for Alex to go in first. When they entered, I heard them gasp. I couldn't blame them, as an AI core was an impressive sight. I thought about Nana Kia and how she had built this, and then, in turn, built Survey. It reminded me that Nana Kia was also one of the few people who accepted me as I was, the few times I talked to her in person. "Focus, John," I told myself, as I looked over Loki's core chamber. "Alex, can you take in the provisions?" I said, after giving them a minute. "Oh, yes, sorry. The core is incredible," they said, taking the box. I followed. "Yes, it is. It is even more so when the mind is active." I closed the door. "Okay, Alex. I will have you run the autonomic systems reboot." I plugged the B computer into the port by the door and pressed the power button. It lit up and scrolled through the startup sequence until it said ready. I strapped it to a hook on the wall. "Okay, all you'll need to do is press the execute button here when I give you the okay. I'll start the core reboot first." "Understood," they said, and held onto the wall next to the port. "Good." I grabbed the A computer and made my way to the port on the core. I was glad I knew where it was, since it was barely glowing at all. I plugged it in and turned on the power. Once it was ready, I said, "Starting the core reboot." I pressed the execute button and the screen started scrolling. "Okay, Alex, this is working. Press the button now." I heard them move. "It's going, John." I used the guy wires to return to the platform where Alex was. "So now we wait?" they asked. I nodded. "Now we wait." Chapter 63. Alex. The first couple of hours dragged by. John and I talked quietly about random things, but after that, John decided to take a nap. He hooked himself to the platform railing, folded his arms, and tucked his head in and was suddenly asleep. I set a timer on my suit for 4 hours and tried to do the same. I think I dozed a little, but woke up before the timer went off. I disabled it and let myself float in the dim light of the core. I wonder if this is how Nana Kia felt when she was in the core with the first, I thought. Was this what it felt like when she was waiting for the first to wake up, not knowing if she was going to even see it before the missiles came? I went through the story in my mind. Like all kids in Survey, I had it memorized by the time I was 10, and never tired of its retelling, especially if I got to hear Nana Kia tell it. The story said that when the core came to life, it looked like stars. Darren hadn't really talked about his experience in Musashi's core, although he did have a look of wonder on his face when John brought him out of the core tunnel. Darren. I missed him. It's only been a few hours, I chided myself. I sighed. I could hear Hannah's voice in my head saying, "I told you so." She's always thought I'd find someone to partner with someday. I just didn't expect it to be an admiral from Earth. If I was honest with myself, though, I had felt something about Darren the day we've met on First Station. It had only been a few months, but we had already grown so close. Well, of course you did. This investigation has been excruciating emotionally, and you have only had each other to talk about it. I stretched as much as I could, then checked the computer by the door. It looked like it had finished a while ago and powered itself down. I unplugged it from the wall and stowed it. John seemed to still be sleeping, so I helped myself to one of the nutrition shakes. What do I want from Darren? Do I want it to be a long-term thing? Do I want it to be more exclusive pairing? I drank the shake without really tasting it. I want to spend the rest of my life with him, came the thought from the depths of my mind, surprising me. I want to marry him, and I want to have children with him. I almost let go of the shake. As much as the thoughts surprised me, I knew they were all true. Yes, that's what I want. I let my mind sit with that while I finished the drink. As I went to store the empty container, the lights suddenly went out. I turned back to see a flicker of lights in the core that did indeed look like stars. Instead of a voice saying hello, the emergency lights came on again and the stars flickered out. "John," I said. "Did he come on?" John asked, awake and alert. For a brief moment, I could see lights in the core, but then it went out again. His core is intact. He should have booted. John pulled out a tablet from the pocket in his suit and plugged it into the port by the door. Most autonomic functions are up, so we don't have to worry about that. I'll set the atmosphere back to normal. There's nothing from this end that should account for his shutting down like that, though. He pushed himself off the platform and went to the computer plugged into the core. He opened the box and plugged his tablet into it. The cleaner program worked. He should be functional. I stared at the core. Why aren't you waking up, Loki? I thought. No, wait, that's not true. He did wake up for a couple of seconds, then went back to safe mode. Wait, John, this might not be an issue with your program. You said Secundus remembered things that happened that he hadn't before you did the wipe of Julie's code, right? Yes, there are a lot of memories that Julie had suppressed. There are some that she had deleted, all right. I saw him wake up for a second or two, John, but then he shut down again. He'd been through abuse and the death of his crew, not to mention knowing what he just did. There might be some memories that she had suppressed in him, as well as things that he might be feeling extremely guilty and sad about. Can you try bringing him up again? Yes, give me a minute. I'll pull the logs too. John fiddled with the computer and tapped his tablet. A few minutes later, the lights went out again. The lights in the core shone for a second, then the emergency lights came on again. John frowned, tapped the tablet a second time, and the same thing happened. This is odd, John said, looking at the tablet. Alex, I think you should look at this. I pushed myself off the platform and joined John next to the core. He handed me the tablet. Executing test loop. G equals 0. Space-time curvature negligible. First order quantum computation OK. High order quantum computation OK. Pre-boot check complete. Loading external boot program. Polling. Loki online. Syslog. No. Syslog. I failed. Engaging safe mode. So if I'm reading this right, he boots, comes online, then immediately shuts himself off again, right? I asked. Yes. And the syslog sections would be his response upon waking. Yes. Holy shit, I said. I think he might have the AI equivalent of catatonia. How do we fix it? I'd rather not have to damage him if we can help it, since we know he can boot up. Well, in humans, we'd have to use medications and talk therapy to bring patients out of it. For this, I think we'll need to think about it first and talk with Musashi. I don't think I can make any of these decisions on my own. John nodded. All right, let's go back to the demon. We should eat, run our suits through their cleaning cycles, and then contact Musashi-sensei and the Admiral. I'll leave this computer here for now, just in case we may need it later. Right, I said. We packed up the rest of our equipment and headed for the demon. This is unsettling, said Mia, after we explained what happened to Loki. Darren was looking thoughtful. Are you able to connect to him, Musashi-sensei? John asked. I can connect with the ship itself, but not to Loki. I can read that he's in safe mode, but I get the same response when I try to bring him out of it. Alex, Darren said, you told me that when I dissociate, it's a way for my mind to protect me from memories that would harm me, right? Yes, I replied, slightly confused. Then I saw what he was getting at. Yes! Would it be possible to selectively edit Loki's memory to remove the worst of the memories, to see if he could come back up again? It'd be like doing a selective artificial dissociation. It is possible, Alex, but I am reluctant to do so, Mia said. Why? I asked. He cannot consent in his present state. I'm not sure what to say to that, since Mia wasn't wrong about that. But we can't even bring him up to ask. We could sequester the memories in a black box and give him the choice later to review the unmodified memories, said John. That could work. We can be honest with him when he wakes up and tell him what happened, explain what we did, and then allow him to decide if and when he takes on those memories. We could even have him choose where he wants to keep them. As long as we get all the experimental data from him in the process, said John. I can agree to this, Mia said. I do not like it, but if it's the only way, then I will do it. Please wait. How are you two doing over there? Darren asked, while Mia was doing whatever it was he was doing. All right, I said. Apparently John has a curry sausage and potato shake. Currywurst, he corrected. Interesting. I'll have to try that one, he said. It's good flavor, said John. He paused. Do you really think this will work, Alex? I'm not entirely sure, but if it's his memories that are causing him to shut himself down, then this should at least get him to a point where he could nominally function. It doesn't mean he won't need more help to come to terms with everything, though. Yes, that makes sense, said John. With a faint pop, a picket appeared, attached to a box. John took the box and opened it. There was some sort of equipment inside that had a similar connector to the computer that John had used on the core. Install that in the port on the core. The creator created a backdoor of sorts for emergency purposes, and this device will get me access to that. We don't like using this if we do not have to, but this situation warrants it. I will need you to come back here once the connection is established, Alex. I will need your advice on what should and should not be removed. Understood, I said. I'll go back to the core then, said John, closing the box and going to retrieve his pressure suit. I can go by myself, since all I'm doing is installing this and retrieving the computer. Then we can return to Musashi. See you when you get back, Darren said, and the screen went blank. I helped John check his suit before he returned to the core. I waited in the demon, thinking about what we were about to do. I wasn't looking forward to going through the memories with Mia, since it was possible that we'd have to go pretty deep to know what to remove. At that moment, I really wished Darren was in the demon with me. I really hope this works, I thought. That prayer followed us all the way back to Musashi. Chapter 64. Alex. I threw down the tablet on the table in the skiff in frustration. This is getting us nowhere, Mia. There's 7 years of memories to go through here, and while there are obvious things that I can tell you to delete or modify, some of it is much more subtle. Problem is that Loki isn't able to tell us his feelings for the memories that we think might be problematic. Mia didn't say anything to that for a long moment. What is it, Mia? I asked, when the silence became a little too long. There is a way to speed this up and allow you to access Loki's emotional state. Oh? I sat up straighter, surprised by the offer implied. Oh, right, but I thought... The bots themselves can be implanted in anyone, but we generally prefer to only do it for captains, as the bots are usually tied to their respective ship. I couldn't tie you to me specifically, since you'd need to be able to move to other ships for long periods of time. It would mean that you would have some of the same restrictions as captains about being out of an AI's influence for long periods of time, or going into gravity. You would not have the constant visual displays of low-order functions that a captain would have, but you'd be able to connect with any of us or any captain non-verbally. I would need to inform my siblings and father about this as soon as we return to First Hub, so that they won't be surprised and you won't be overwhelmed. I nodded, understanding these restrictions. As you know, your body may react to the bots in unexpected ways, and since these would be more open than the regular bots, I'm not sure exactly how they will interact when you are around captains. This is not something we have tried before, though it has always been theoretically possible. Oh, I said. What if they did weird things when I'm with Darren? Could I live with that? I didn't know. Wait, they can be turned off at will though, right? Yes, you can turn them off for short periods of time while you are not using them actively. The maximum is a month, but after that time, there could be damage that would be irreversible. There is a procedure for permanently turning them off. We used it on Darren when his enhancements were affected by Julie's code, and for when captains wish to retire. There is a part of the enhancements that will be permanent, though. As they are both biochemical and mechanical, we cannot always predict what that permanent part will affect. Like the nausea that Miranda gets when she leaves Hestia, I said. Yes, that is correct. I sat back in my chair and let out a breath. This would be the fastest way to get through the memories, even if I didn't know what it would do to me emotionally and physically. I sat up again. If I do this, you'd let me do the retirement procedure any time if it became too much? Yes, of course, Alex, Mia replied. All right, let's do it. Let me go tell Darren. When should I go to the medbay? This evening is fine, so you can sleep overnight while the enhancements settle in. I stood, picking up the tablet. Where's Darren now? He is in his office. I have told him to expect you. Thanks, Mia, I said. Darren looked up as I came through the door. Oh, hello there, he said with a bright smile. His spare and undecorated office, so unlike those of the other captains, still surprised me. Then again, he hasn't been captain all that long. Maybe I should help him decorate, I thought. I sat down in the chair across from him. He stared back at me. To what do I owe this visit to my office? Weren't you working with Mia on the memories? I was, but it wasn't getting anywhere. I took a breath and let it out. Mia has suggested another way of working, though. I told him about what Mia and I had discussed. Enhancements, he said, seeming surprised. I nodded. But you're not a captain. They would be less restrictive, from what Mia told me. I wouldn't be tied to a ship, and I wouldn't get the data streams that you do, but I would be able to communicate with any of the AIs like you do with Mia and receive data. Mia also said that he's not sure how they will react around you and the other captains. We'll work around it, he said. We love the ability to turn them off, so if we have to, we'll do that when we're together. You're not going to talk me out of it? I asked. It's your decision, Alex. If it will help you do your job, then I know you'll do it. I know Mia's given you all the information to make an informed decision. If you want to know if I'd recommend it, then I'd say yes and no. It is very useful and helpful in emergencies. It's very intimate, too, since Mia can share a lot of my thoughts. He doesn't interfere with my normal day-to-day thinking, though. I think it's part of the privacy protocol they generally have. Right, Mia? That is correct. I ignore most information that is not necessary for me to comment on. It does mean that your memories do get stored in our backups. For you, Alex, any shared memories would be stored in backup of the AI you are interacting with. Interesting, I said. You've already decided to do it, right? He asked. I nodded. I thought as much. When? Tonight, I said. All right, let's have dinner and then I'll go with you to the medbay. You don't have to, I started to say. He waved his hand to stop me. I'm coming with you. I'm the only other person on this ship that knows what you'll be going through, so I know what you'll feel like when you wake up. I don't have all that much to do at the moment, since we're waiting for Hephaestus and for your analysis of Loki's memories. So, yes, I'll be coming with you. Darren gave me an implacable look that did not invite argument. I started laughing. What? He asked. Sorry, but you just reminded me of my mother for a minute. She'd give me the same look when she knew she was right and would brook no nonsense. Darren smiled. Well, she usually wasn't wrong when she did it, right? No, I replied. All right, I surrender. I held up my hands. Good. I'll see you at dinner. I nodded and reached out for his hand and took it. He gave a reassuring squeeze, then kissed my hand. I smiled and left the room. Alex, said a voice in my head. Yes, I answered. Good. The enhancements are responding appropriately, and you are waking up within the average time frame. You should get up and have some nutrition now. It's possible you'll experience some dizziness as you stand. I recommend letting the nurses help you if that's the case, Mia said. Thanks, Mia. I opened my eyes, seeing the familiar surroundings of the med bay in the low light. I turned my head to see Darren asleep in a chair next to the bed. Hey, I said out loud. He jumped as he woke. Oh, you're awake. Good. Hang on a sec. He stood up and left the curtained-off area. I heard voices, then the sound of a food printer. When Darren came back, he had a large cup in one hand. Here, you'll want this, he said. Remembering what Mia had said, I sat up slowly and put my legs over the side of the bed. There was a small clock in the lower left corner of my vision, but no other displays. I took the cup from Darren and sipped it. Chocolate chip cookie? John came by when I told him what was going on, and he said that I should give that to you when you woke up. He didn't say what flavor, just that it was number 10. I chuckled. I always forget that he has an eidetic memory. I told him I preferred the sweet shakes to the savory ones. I think he's taken a liking to you. Good. Of all the people I know, he's the one who needs a friend the most. Suppose it's hard for him to have friends at all, isn't it? Darren asked. I nodded, then really wished I hadn't. Ooh, I shouldn't have done that. My dizziness went away relatively quickly. Hopefully it does for you, too. That would be nice. Hey, drink up. I don't want the nurse mad at me, or Mia for that matter. Darren chuckled as I obeyed him. I felt the same sentiment reflected from Mia. Wow, this is interesting, I said as I finished the shake. Darren just smiled and nodded in sympathy. The nurse came in at that moment, and seeing that I had finished the shake, smiled. Good, they said. I didn't have to sit on you to get that down. They held the scanner to my head. Looks like the enhancements are settling in nicely. Let me put some slippers on you, and I'll help you stand. They pulled a pair out of the cabinet and put them on my feet. Ready? Yes, I said, and the nurse palmed the bed controls. The bed lowered itself until my feet could touch the floor. They held out their arm, which I used to steady myself as I stood. There was a little dizziness, but it went away quickly. I'm a little wobbly, but I think I could walk without a problem. Show me then, the nurse said. I walked slowly around the bed and back. Good, then I can let you go. I leave you in the Admiral's capable hands. I recommend getting some more sleep if you can, since it's still pretty early in the morning. Take it slow today as you're getting used to the enhancements. Mia will instruct you on how to turn them on and off and other features. And don't forget to eat. They bowed to Darren and left, leaving us alone. Darren smiled. Very efficient, the nurses here. Well, they don't mess around, as you know. So, do I have to walk the halls in a medical gown? Darren stood and pulled out a large white robe from the cabinet in the wall. He put it around me and tied the belt around it. Better? He asked. Yes. Shall we go? Do you want to be by yourself, or do you want me with you? He asked. Come with me until you need to work. Okay. I put my arm through his, and he led me out of the med bay. You have been listening to Tales from Flat Space. If you want to support me in my writing, there are many ways to do it. Share this podcast, follow me on my Twitch channel, or buy my books. All you have to do is go to revgenapon.net and click on the relevant links. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time.